You're in a good place now. Relax, breathe, smile. You've entered into your element, the home of origin, the home of intelligence and beauty, where relevant topics are discussed, where what you think counts, and where superior is the norm. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
I like Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, but I prohibit my workers from listening to it.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And we're discussing straight-up honesty and raw happiness. How to get both in your life without the yuck factor. Honesty and happiness are the two things that people most want. You hear it on a constant basis. I just wish people were honest with me. I just wish I was happy. I don't see why I can't be happy, and I don't see why people have to lie and cheat and not be honest. I think if we knew what others were actually struggling with, it would actually offer us a proper perspective. It would allow us to comprehend, perhaps, their actions, their general attitude. It doesn't make it right what's going on. But you could seem to maneuver yourself around the situation and honestly understand why somebody in your life is acting or talking or speaking a certain way to you, and you could understand what is driving them to this direction. Bill, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. I also have issues, so I think you picked a good topic tonight.
Issues!
I have issues.
I have a basket of issues.
I do, but yeah, I mean, also too, if somebody's being mean to me, and I don't necessarily think it gives them an excuse to be a jerk to me, but maybe if I understood where they were coming from, then maybe I could help them out or something.
I agree. Maybe we'd also not make such assumptions, because I think we have a tendency of making these assumptions based on the way that somebody's delivering a message or the way that someone's acting.
Because you know what they say about assumptions. Makes
an ass out of you and me.
There you go.
Yay! It's a long story, folks. It's a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah.
The kind of the easiest things make us laugh here. We're an easygoing, good.
We're easily entertained. We're also easily distracted.
No, yeah. It just depends. I mean, if there were cats walking by the studio, we'd probably be pretty distracted.
Probably.
But there's not, because we're like up here in the sky somewhere. But we'll deal with that later. Keenan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm chilling. Swiping through Tinder, just swiping right, just the entire time.
See,
Tinder.
I haven't been able to use Tinder. Being married all this time.
It doesn't work, but
how many pictures do you get to put up on that?
I don't know.
How many pictures have you put up on there?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I mean, you don't number them? You don't, or haven't organized them?
I don't remember. Like I said, I just swipe.
Keenan at the beach.
No, I just.
Keenan clan.
I haven't been to the beach since Hawaii.
Since Hawaii?
Yeah, since Hawaii. I don't really go to the beach.
You're not a beach guy.
I'm not a nature guy, period.
Oof.
I'm just not. Trees, grass, forget about it. I prefer.
Keenan likes concrete.
He wants concrete and polluted air.
Concrete and big buildings.
Man, he fits in here. He fits in anywhere in the country. So let's talk about the straight up honesty and raw happiness.
And I was being honest about it.
He is being honest.
And he's being honest about it.
There you go.
He's not putting on airs. How to get both without the yuck factor. See, we know that everybody's struggling with things. We know that we don't know exactly what. And sometimes we make these decisions because we assume that everybody's just doing well, that everything's going perfect, and that their life must be amazing, but they're just taking that out on us or just making an example out of us. And I just recently asked a question on social media, on Facebook actually, what's the biggest issue that you're dealing with in your life? And I didn't really know what kind of responses I was going to receive.
Which, by the way, we should say, Ashley, that we are currently blogging live on Facebook and Twitter.
At Ashley Burgess or Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
There you go. And
my Twitter handle the same, Ashley Burgess.
So, I mean, this is proof positive that, yes, we are paying attention to what you, the listeners, are telling us. So we're going to read it over the air. So we encourage you as we go along to go ahead and post your thoughts about what we're talking about tonight.
One person, said that their biggest issue was their weight, that they were overweight. And I think
Just out of curiosity, is this person male or female?
Male.
Okay.
2 males. 2 different males agreed to that same situation. And I think when weight, and I think you have to think about weight in general, is when does it actually apply to your health? I think you can be pleasantly plump. I think you can have a little bit of weight on you. But I think that when it becomes an actual health issue, that would be your biggest issue.
Well, and you know how I feel about that, Ashley. I mean, especially when it comes to women, there's an impossible standard of thinness where I think most women are at least 10 to 20 pounds underweight.
And I think men, though, don't really worry about their weight until it's actually affecting their health.
Right. Because, heart disease and other stuff like that. Of course, science has shown that women are just as susceptible, if not more, to heart disease as men are. But, yeah, I mean, and also just for your general well-being. I mean, if it's okay if you're carrying around a couple extra pounds. But if it gets to the point where, all of a sudden you got to go buy a new wardrobe of clothes and it's, you lose energy and you get winded really easy, you got to do something about it.
Also, if your knees are taking on, our knees and our joints can only really hold up a certain amount of weight. And when you're starting to break down those joints, that's a problem.
Well, I mean, you also want to be able to shop off the rack because getting custom clothing is pretty expensive. I mean, well, here's the thing. I mean, like, I'm just one who really cannot speak about being overweight because I've never been overweight in an entire day of my life. My offspring will never be overweight. That's just my metabolism, just as how it is. So to me, it's like it all depends. Like I really have to see that person when they say, yes, my issue is weight, because we all see those people day in and day out. They always say how they got to lose 5 pounds. It's like everyone's reading from the same script once again. Everyone is either trying to lose 5 or 10 pounds. And they're doing whatever they can to lose this 5 or 10 pounds. But the thing is, though, I mean, they're not even thinking about their health, because that number on the scale is only telling you how much mass you're taking up. It's not really dictating your health at all, because you could be skinny and still be unhealthy.
I have a scale, actually, that's pretty cool that does actually fat. And it does body fat index and everything.
What about cholesterol?
I already have
my
cholesterol tested.
Yeah.
I have very, very low cholesterol. I don't have a problem with cholesterol. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize those kind of things. And a lot of people, and women can be a tendency of being skinny flabby, where they don't have any muscle mass at all, and they are very tiny.
They're just walking skeletons. I mean, I just...
And all they do is get on the treadmill here and there, and they don't know why they don't have any muscle.
Yeah,
well, it's because
exactly.
you need to gain muscle. You don't need to be doing cardio and eating like crap.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't understand running on a treadmill at all. I think it's pretty asinine to me for a person to run on a treadmill, because we have an entire planet and land to run on. Why are you going to go to the gym and pay all this money just to run on a treadmill? It's just asinine to me. I don't understand it.
Well, I mean, and I don't do it for that reason. Now, back in the day when I was lifting weights seriously, well, there you go. I mean, I was getting my money's worth out of it because I was...
Well, I mean, I choose to run. I choose to do weights, and I choose to do elliptical because of my knees. I used to be a runner, and I shot out both my knees. I've had my kneecaps come out of place 7 times on the right side, 4 times on the left, and so when I run on pavement, it screws up my feet and it screws up my legs, and I've had tendonitis in both my feet.
Do you bicycle?
Yeah, I can bicycle, but I only can bicycle on a sit-down bicycle. I can't do a sit-over bicycle because I've had spinal replacement and vertebrae in my spine. So as you can hear, I have actually used my body quite a bit in the running and the working out and the exercising and the winning of the competitions for many coaches out there. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the only reason why I do it. The next person said grieving. They said that they are grieving, that they feel like they're walking through fog all the time, and then it makes everything they do more difficult. It makes finding joy in things that they used to do very difficult. And another person also responded on grief, saying that it packs a rough punch. It's unique to one's experience. And they said that there was many books and different things that they actually gave friends that were going through grief.
Well, I mean, obviously, grieving is a pretty rough time in somebody's life, and it tends to kind of take up, your whole waking moment.
Yeah, it does take up a lot of your time. I mean, I know a lot about grieving. I'll just say that. I'm just being honest, right? I know a lot about grieving. I was raised by my grandparents, and in the year 2006, February, my grandmother died. In December of 2006. My grandfather died, and they were the people that raised me. I mean, like, growing up on all the forums that said parent, legal guardian, it was them.
They were your parents for all intents and purposes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I mean, like they're they're my parents from the time I came out the womb to the time I, shipped off. So yeah, I know something about grieving, and on top of that, I lost friends, to like violent stuff and everything like that. But but grief, it goes away with time. It goes away with time, but you never know though how much time it takes.
I agree with that. And I think when we return, we're going to be talking more about straight up honesty, raw happiness, and how to get both out of life without that yuck factor. Stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess. The water's warm and there's a swim-up bar. Glass of perspective, anyone? Now, here's Ashley.
We're going to draw some perspective. We're going to draw a road and some phone poles and building going into the distance with some mountains and shadows and all that kind of stuff. We're going to do it really fast. You can't do perspective without a horizon that you're looking into the distance at.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing straight up honesty and raw happiness, and how to get both out of your life without that yuck factor. And when I talk about the yuck factor, I mean assumptions. I mean not understanding somebody's behavior, their actions, making assumptions, being upset, taking it personally. And I think a lot of times when people say things that are off color, when people make comments, when people respond to us, or on the opposite, don't respond, don't return calls, we make assumptions it's all got to be about us. But in actuality, most people have a lot of issues they're dealing with, or one core issue that if you knew about it, you could understand the situation.
So in other words, you're saying like if somebody acts a certain way to you and your reaction is, yuck.
Well, you're like, what a jerk, what
Yeah.
an ass. Like some people just, the way they come off sometimes, especially if it's a friend of yours and you actually care, and they just like hang up on you, or they do something, or they act like a jerk. I mean, your feelings can get very hurt because you care about what they are in your life. And I think if you knew, it doesn't make it right if people are taking out their issues on other people, but it makes it easier to digest when you understand if somebody's going through some big thing in their life. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it does make it fairly simple to understand how to. I mean, it really does depend on the situation, because the thing is, there are just some things that, say, people go through that is just unrelatable to the rest of the population. I mean, we have, 2% of the population, war veterans and stuff like that, and the thing is, though, they got major issues. We have major issues. I should say we.
PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. We have major issues, and it doesn't matter if someone knows that, I have PTSD. It doesn't matter if anyone knows that at all, because the thing is, though, at the end of the day, they cannot relate. They just can't. I've had friends, like, they try and everything like that, but it's like, no, I mean, you're close, but you're just not quite there. I mean, like, I had people try to relate to me on a military sense by, like, say, like, decorating their room and camouflage and stuff like that, but I'm like, oh, we're not the same, or like, we're in a camouflage bikini or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's amusing, but you never served, but I mean, before the rest of the population, some people do go through similar things. They do. And
there's a lot of people out there who have lost a loved one.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people out there who are dealing with weight issues. There's a lot of people out there who are dealing with career issues
I've
or
lost loved
spouse
ones.
issues.
I've lost lots of friends.
Yeah,
I've lost about 15, 20 friends of mine that were very close.
There are people that that lost their parents.
But now let me ask both of you this though. Even if you haven't experienced a certain situation yourself, is it possible that you can kind of imagine how it would feel, and maybe you don't get it, hit the bullseye with it, but wow, if that happened to me, I don't think I'd like it, or something like that.
Well, I think that's all based on perspective, and we've talked about this on another show, earlier in the week. But perspective is based on purpose, education, reason, season, participation, excellence, being centered, being thoughtful of other people, instinct, vision, energy. Those things make up perspective. And if you can have that type of reasoning, and if you're centered and you have purpose, I think that you can understand to a degree what someone else is going through.
And if one of our listeners did want to listen to previous shows where they can find out about that kind of stuff, where would they go,
They
Ashley?
could go to ashleyburgess.com. They could go to iTunes and look up Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, or they can go to Spreaker and look up Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Brand new to Spreaker.
It's very easy, very simple. Basically, all you have to do is put in Perspectives with Ashley Burgess into your Google search. Probably not even all that, probably one of those words, and you will find us. And that's what's so inherently important, because this other person actually said that they've dealt with loss of their friends and family, as well as, dealing with the loss of things that used to be a part of their life that are no longer a part of it. And I think grief not only reflects to death, but I think grief can also deal with a loss of a friendship or the end of an era. And I think, like, for example, if somebody was very close to you, and y'all are no longer friends, you might have to go through a grieving process. And a lot of people in this country, we're into this disposable lifestyle. We're into this fast food of therapy, where people want to go to the Walgreens and look at it like a McDonald's and pull up and get their pills and drive away, and they think that's going to change everything. Most people don't ever go through grief. They don't ever allow themselves to go through the process, which means that all that collective baggage will come out at some given point.
Yeah, it will. I mean, you can only medicate so much. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think medication is just a bunch of bull, if you ask me, because the thing, it's like, I don't know. It's like we're making up all these, psychological terms like, ADD and everything else, and it's like you have all these doctors. They are medical doctors, and I do give props to doctors, but they just want to constantly give you happy pills. Well, that's what they want to do. They want.
You know why, don't you? Because there's two reasons.
Yeah, there's two reasons. One is because they're being paid by the pharmaceutical company that makes those pills.
I mean,
that's why. So they're profiting off of it. So it's like you can come in there with whatever. Hey doc, my parents just died. Okay, here's some happy pills. How good is that going to do anyone? It's not going to do anyone good.
No.
Well, pills only work. Pills, I agree with you. Pills are it's like a Band-Aid, but pills only work in connection with coaching and therapy. And that's the reason why I work with a lot of psychiatrists, is because psychiatrists refer me clients that want to take to the next level. So they are on medication possibly to level them out. However, medication alone is only a Band-Aid. And if they don't go to the next level and realize what's in their mind, the things that are holding them back, the things that they're dealing with, the nightmares they have at night, the reasons why they do what they do, it's never going to change. They're just going to be in a loop of medication, and that loop never really goes to the right level, and it never gets to that next level. You're just constantly going, I don't think the pill's working anymore. And eventually they have to go to another pill, to another level, because now their body's gotten, immune to it, basically.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, think about medicines or drugs in general, okay? It's a chemical. And anytime you put a chemical in your body, especially something that's supposed to help like your mood or your psychological state, it's going to affect your brain.
Yeah,
and how it operates.
It is. I mean, and I'm all for modern medicine. I really am. Vaccinations and everything like that. I'm glad that we have something called the flu shot. I really am. But when it comes to like things that are dealing with the brain, especially at an emotional state, that's the thing, the emotional state, then to me medication is just it's something that I really
treats the symptoms.
It does. I mean, it treats the symptoms, and then on top of that,
but it doesn't treat the underlying problem.
Like you have someone walking around the planet, and they're pretty much lying to not only everyone else but themselves, because the thing is they're not being themselves.
Right.
They're being whatever that drug is telling them to be.
See, I mean, Ashley just mentioned it a moment ago. I have attention deficit disorder. It's not real bad, but I have it, but I don't take any medication for it, because all the medications out there that treat that disorder, it basically just turns into a zombie. I mean, I feel like I'm stoned all the time if I take what they prescribe for me for it, and to me that's worse.
I didn't know you were ever prescribed for anything. Were you?
Long time ago.
I mean, I do agree that there are medications out there that do help. But they don't do everything, and I think sometimes when people do need medication, they do. Some people don't. Like Bill doesn't want medication; he doesn't want to do it, and I understand that too. But there is therapy, and there is structure, and there is help to go to the next level, even if you don't want to take medication. I totally agree with you. Let's go to the next one. The next person actually said that they're being sued. So that's a big deal. Lawsuit. Anybody that's going through a big lawsuit, I've been through a lawsuit before, and I know how that feels. And a lot of people are quick to say, I'm going to sue them. I'm going to sue the crap out of them. You know what? I've been in a lawsuit. You know how much fun that is to be in court? You know how much fun that is to present all this evidence? It's awful. It's absolutely awful. Especially divorce court is one of the biggest ones that really takes people.
Because, yeah, I mean, and of course, half of all marriages end in divorce nowadays. And it's just so personal because at least you thought, at least I would hope you think that you were in love with this person enough to take the vows and say, okay, I love you and I'll spend the rest of my life with you.
So you were during that time.
Yeah, that's where you were in the time. But, I mean, love can turn to hate really quickly. And, if another person says, well, I don't love you anymore and I don't want to be married to you, for whatever reason, there's a variety of reasons why. And I want half your stuff, and I want custody of the kids, and alimony, and blah blah blah. Then that can get really personal.
Well, it's already gotten personal.
Yeah, it's already gotten personal. I mean,
and now you're going to take you through the mud.
Yeah, exactly. It's already it's gotten personal. I don't know. I never been through a lawsuit. I'm about to crack a joke. As an African American male, I do avoid court like the plague. I'm not gonna lie, I avoid court like the plague because I know I'm not gonna get a fair shot.
Well, I see court and it's awful, and being sued is not a good thing, or vice versa. So stay tuned. When we return, we're going to be talking about more about how to get straight up honesty, how to get that raw happiness in life, and how to get both without having that yucky factor of assumption. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess on 570 KLIF.
Oh, swamp leeches, everybody! Check for swamp leeches and pull them off. Nobody else got hit? I'm the only one? What's the deal?
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing straight up honesty and raw happiness. How to get both without the yuck factor of assumption. It seems that a lot of us deal with struggles. We have an issue that probably plagues us at either given time. And a lot of times when people act a certain way, or their manner or their mannerisms are a certain way, we take it personally. When somebody has attitude, when somebody doesn't respond to us, when somebody, cops an attitude, quite frankly, a lot of times we think it's personal. And I think if we knew what everybody was going through, had at least an idea, I think the world would be a different place. I think that assumptions would be thrown out the window. Not that it's right that people take things out on other people, but at the same point, we could put it in proper perspective. Right before the break, we were discussing being sued, dealing with a lawsuit, and that can be an overwhelming feeling. It can make you feel powerless, especially depending on how long it's going on. It could be going on for years. And especially if you're having to pay for that as well and it's coming out of your pocket, it can be an overwhelming situation. The next person wrote that they don't know what to do for their 40th anniversary. And they want to do the best thing for their wife because their wife is the queen of their castle, and they're stressed out and they hope that they make the right decision. And for me, that seems like that's kind of a cute problem to have.
Yeah, of all the problems you could have, but think about it from this guy's perspective. I mean, being married to somebody for 10 years seems like an accomplishment nowadays, but 40, can you imagine 40 years? I mean, that's probably over half his life.
I couldn't even imagine being alive for 40 years.
I know.
Oh,
yeah.
He's going to stay away from court, and we hope that Keenan stays alive past 40.
Yeah, so do I.
We'll have a big party when that happens.
So just stay away from court, and you'll be okay, Keenan. but yeah, so this woman has taken up basically the majority of his life, and he feels the need to, I guess, show his appreciation. So I mean,
and he cares so much about her.
Yeah. So I think this kind of go back to what I was saying. Even though I haven't, I mean, I've never been married, period. But I could see myself in that situation where, golly, how do I tell the person I just spent 40 years of my life with
that I love them?
Yeah, they're the queen of my castle. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. And it's a good feeling. You wonder too, though, You wonder if somebody has expressed the way they really feel to their wife. You know, I think sometimes in our culture and in our society, we tell people we love them and stuff like that, but maybe they don't know to the degree.
Well, and also too, you know, perhaps men of his. I'm going to assume that your writer there is male, but
He's a man.
okay. So men of his generation were probably taught to, you know, don't let your emotions show.
Probably.
You know? And probably, maybe he even, of course, I may be making a mistake of making an assumption here. And you know what Ashley said about assumptions, but, maybe, hey, baby, I love you or whatever, but maybe, he's never just like, I love you, and just kind of, did it in a personal that way. Although I think society's getting better about letting men, show their emotions like that, then that may be, something that's stressing him out.
It could. I think it's kind of cool though. I think that's
wouldn't
one
that
of
be
those
positive
issues you
stress though?
Positive stress? Is
Yeah.
there?
Actually,
I think it's positive.
Yeah, and actually, there is a such thing as positive stress. There really is.
I don't know if it's stressing you,
Well,
if it's causing you to worry, maybe to lose sleep, if it's affecting your heart rate, if it's affecting your well-being, then can it be positive?
Well, professional athletes go through positive stress whenever they play a game, and it helps them perform better.
Okay, well,
for him to be stressed out, that his 40th anniversary is coming up. I think that's a good thing because the thing is, at the end of the day, whatever he decides to do,
it'll be the right thing.
It's got to be the right thing because he put in a lot of thought and a lot of effort into it. And so, whatever you come up with, your wife is going to love it. She is, because you put in a lot of time and a lot of effort. I'm like, I know you're stressing out about it, but just, I don't know, I don't know when it's coming up or anything like that, but just give it time and then, boom, something's going to come up in your head and it's going to be just totally fabulous. I'm telling you.
So don't stress it. To relax. It'll come.
Yeah, it'll come. It'll come. But however, that stress. It's a boost in this brain pattern though. So he's racking his brain, and the thing is, he's gonna come up with something good. I'm like, hey, I'll tell you what Friedrich Nietzsche says. What he says? He says, walk. A true thought. A truly well out thought comes from walking. So, dude, go for a walk.
I like that.
Yeah,
and it'll clear your mind.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing right now, but I know like Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a really big thinking of ideas while walking. So if you want to think of an idea, go for a walk and boom, something will come up in your head.
Although don't do it like Keenan and don't go out in nature. Just go in the middle of the city and walk around in the concrete downtown.
I like to actually take a shower. That helps, and even going to the bathroom for goodness sakes helps too. It can clear your mind at a meeting. You know what I mean? You go to the bathroom, you walk.
Going to the
there.
bathroom clears something.
Jeez. Bringing it down. All right, the next person said cancer.
Oh, that's heavy.
So cancer, and another person said life in general. And so I think that these issues are kind of big. And I think anybody that's going through cancer and dealing with the scaredness and the stress of cancer have all legitimate right to be scared. And I think in those situations, a lot of times it's hard for us to see the big picture. And also it's hard for us to look outside of what people are telling us we have to do. And sometimes it's about finding the alternative option. And I think when you're dealing with any of those big ones, especially the C word, my honest, wise opinion is to always venture to the things that they don't really necessarily tell you about. And I know this sounds interesting, but there's a lot of different treatments and other options that can be tried before you go to the big options. And I do think it's important. There's a big thing called diet too, and there's a particular diet out there, and I actually have the entire big book on it. And it is absolutely an amazing diet. And I've had several friends actually cure themselves of cancer over multiple times. And if you eat a certain way, and it is a very strict diet. There is no alcohol. There is no milk. There's certain waters. There's certain vitamins. It's so regimented. But if you follow this regimen, I've seen people actually cure themselves of cancer. And those are it's called the Gershon. It's the Gershon diet. And there's certain things that if you listen, they're not, certain people aren't going to tell you about that because they don't even know that it exists. But there's certain things that it's hard to look at it when you're under that microscope. But I think we've talked about this in past shows, is to get a bird's eye view sometimes. That normally can help you, because you try to divide the emotion, because it seems that when we make an emotional decision, we might not always make the right one for our health.
Well, I mean, I know if the doctor told me that I've got, 6 months or less to live, then, I mean, heck, at that point, what have you got to lose?
Oh, I agree. I mean, what do you have to lose? I mean, but I think you should try anything. And I think there's a lot of different remedies. And I think also, it's interesting when you take your life in your own hands and you stop allowing people to basically use you as a puppet and tell you what to do. All of a sudden, things kind of change in your life. And that's what I did years ago with my own health. We have a lot of people also that are talking about having to go get a vasectomy. And they talked about how they're currently at the urologist talking about vasectomy. You tell me what the issue is. So that could be interesting.
Did they really write that?
Yes, they said, you tell me. Exclamation point. Also, another friend wrote, and another listener said, starting over again and at the age of 52. Reinvention. So we have reinvention and we have stopping of the kids.
Isn't it interesting? You ask people, okay, what are your issues? And we're just getting answers. We're covering the spectrum, aren't we?
Yeah.
Just what people seem to, believe that issues are or should be.
And it's crazy how, honestly, these are the least things you would ever think about. You're never going to see, Henry or John or Michael or Allison or Lisa and know, okay, they're going through a midlife crisis. Or, okay, they must have cancer. Or, okay, their mom must have just died. I mean, we don't know any of that stuff. And also, Lisa, John, or Henry look at you and they're a total ass to you. And you go, what jerk?
But they will tell a complete stranger.
They will tell a complete stranger.
They will tell a complete stranger. I remember I was riding a train and I get off the train to take the bus. Well, I'm at the bus stop and this guy, he's smoking something very potent. Okay. and the thing is, he just looks like, just a regular, white guy in his 40s. And I'm like, dude, you're just out here like smoking that like we're in, in one of those, Amsterdam or something like that, And the thing is, he stops inhaling and he looks at me with like a straight face, dead in the eyes, and he says, I have stage 4 cancer.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do to him? Are you going to put him in jail?
Yeah, that's what he said to me.
He's just like, he's done. Like you were saying earlier, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so when we return, we're talking about how to be straight up honest, how to find raw happiness in your life, and how to get both of those without the yuck factor. Stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in 2 shakes.
I could lift you up. I could show you what you want to see and take you where you want to be.
Get in here and give us your perspective. We're listening. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. And on tonight's show, we've been discussing straight up honesty and raw happiness, how to get both without the yuck factor. A lot of times we don't realize what other people are struggling with, and we don't have the proper perspective. We don't understand why they're acting a certain way, why they have a certain attitude, why they aren't responding, why they are responding in a mean way. We don't get it because we don't know what the issues they're dealing with. And not that it makes it right that they're taking it out on you. However, life would be a lot easier to understand folks if you knew what they were dealing with. Right before the break, we talked about one person was dealing with cancer. Another person had a problem with life. One person was at the urologist talking about a vasectomy. One other person was having to start over with their life at age 52, reinvention. And I think anybody that's had to do that knows that that's starting over from scratch.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going through a divorce or a change and you're having to find a new job and everything. It's hard. It's hard.
And actually, real quickly, I just want to thank our listeners for providing us this feedback tonight. And I just want to encourage all of you out there to go on Facebook, go on Twitter, and keep them coming, because we are reading them, and we do appreciate you participating.
We do. And I mean, one other person talked about how, there's different issues that they have, but I like this one. No issues as long as they're breathing. And I like that person. They were saying, I don't have any issues as long as I'm alive. And that is an interesting perspective, because I think a lot of times we don't really think about that. And I hear that a lot of times when I'm like walking through a restaurant, or I'll say, hey, have a good day. And they're like, hey, at least I'm 6 feet up. I'm not 6 feet down. Interesting concept.
I mean, I think, yeah, Keenan, I mean, it's a good one because, even though, when something, let's say something bad, I mean, is happening to you, it's hard, because it's right in front of your face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see anything else. But it could be worse.
Yeah.
Could be dead.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, you could live in Liberia and have to, fight Ebola, forget being here in the United States.
Yeah. I remember someone, female, said something derogatory to me about not having a car and walking, and I looked at her and I said, I came back from a war with both my legs.
Some guys didn't.
Yeah, some guys didn't. So,
That's a big deal. I mean, you can walk.
And forget about with your legs and walking. You came back alive. Some guys didn't.
Not in a body bag.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty big time. One other person said that they can't stay here. They could not tell their issue online and did not want to.
Okay.
One person said it's too much going on at once and their anxiety and depression sucks. And I think anybody that's overwhelmed with anxiety and depression, just dealing with everyday life can be hard, much less if you have a lot of issues and stress in your life. I think that sometimes when people deal with a lot of anxiety and depression, a lot of times it could be family or other induced around you, as well as, there is a medication management, but there's also figuring out and understanding where the anxiety is coming from. And I think that comes from a lot of coaching and a lot of real cognitive therapy.
Well, again, it goes back to what we were talking about in the first segment. I think it was, medicines, drugs. They'll treat the symptoms, but it's a Band-Aid. It's not really curing the underlying problem. So if you have anxiety, that's kind of your psychological state. And okay, the medicine will treat the symptoms, but you're right, Ashley. You need life coaching. Maybe even psychiatric care.
I mean, you need to find out what's causing the anxiety.
Yeah,
I'm like, what is the bottom line behind it? Because the thing is, people, not everyone reacts the same to a certain situation, and like some people react with anxiety and stress and everything else, and you put another person, a different person, that same reaction, and they just may not react at all. I mean, it's the equivalent of, I don't know, just. Well, like for me, being downtown and, someone, decides to start a fight with me, right? A physical fight.
Okay.
I'm good at that. I can handle that fine. I can go through it and like not even be upset or anything else. I mean, I could physical pain, I can deal with that. Now, there's other things, I know I'm not so good at, and I'm sure everyone else is the same way.
Yeah.
So when it comes, it's one of those things when you got to find out what is like really the bottom line, like what is really going on, and so I don't know. Like sometimes I remember when I was on duty, and I had to respond to a situation. One of the first questions I used to ask, and whenever that person was like just stressed out and everything else, the first person I used to ask whenever I had to respond to a situation, and like some of those situations were even like attempted suicide. Mm-hmm. First question I would ask is this: how much have you ate today? Mm-hmm. How much have you ate food?
If person doesn't eat, that can put him in a bad mood pretty fast.
Eat and sleep are very essential.
Yeah, I mean they're very essential,
Yeah.
So I remember I responded to one situation. It was a domestic violence. Mm-hmm. Domestic violence, and the thing is, the guy just got back from being deployed, and he's standing there and he's a little off. But I asked his wife. I said, "How much has he ate today?" She said he had a cracker, a saltine. And I was like, okay. So, my partner who I was on duty with, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take him. Well, no, take him in. I'm going to go to the base kitchen, grab him something to eat, have him eat, then we're going to question him.
Well, I mean, there you go, Ashley. I mean, different people react to different situations,
I totally agree. And I think anxiety and depression, though, do suck. And it's like if you are dealing with that, figuring out where it's coming from, but also if there's anything that's actually kind of aiding and abetting and lighting that fire is also particular to you. And a lot of times that can come from our past. I work with clients on that on a daily basis, and we work to get to the root of the cause. And then that also helps take away the anxiety, the depression, and we start to work to build up the self-esteem. Some people made jokes, because, joking is good medicine.
Kind of gallows humor type.
Yeah.
Everyone likes the funny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm too handsome and being so darn handsome.
Wait. What's being too handsome?
Yes, being too
Oh, my
handsome.
gosh.
And other people said a pimple on their butt. And then so other people talked about uncertain futures, but they feel like they are in the right place and they're not going to give in to fear. One person said, "Hey, give me a call."
Good grief.
One person said that they've been locked out of their iPhone.
Now that's an emergency.
That's a first world problem.
Yeah, it's a first world problem. But I know several people, Keenan. Several people come to mind that they would absolutely panic and freak. One sitting across the table from us.
Oh, don't point fingers. Don't point fingers and name names. No, don't point fingers.
You would.
You would too. You would
panic.
You would panic. Maybe I would too, but let's not talk about that. One person said, "I'm awesome. Thank you." And another person said that they make a very good salary, yet they are an alcoholic and homeless at this point in time, and that being a drunk isn't cheap. And I think anybody that's going through addiction of alcohol or drugs and it is impeding your ability to have a home and to live with food and shelter needs to, actually think about heading into rehabilitation. I think at this point in time when you're able to acknowledge the fact that you have a problem, and I understand that some rehabs only have a 7% rate of a good chance of curing you, but I think it's all about you. If you want to change and you want to change your life, I think you have to find your purpose. Maybe making that certain salary isn't your purpose. You need to find that. Once you find that, drinking yourself to death is not going to help you get there.
That's correct. And I can relate to that from my own experience. Now, fortunately, I didn't become an alcoholic or an addict, but I was in a profession that I was just not happy with and got to the point where I was literally willing to do anything else but to do what I was doing.
So you got it. You finally got to the point where you were done. And I think that happens for alcohol and drugs as well, but you have to find your purpose. So I think the one thing that we're taking out of tonight's show, and there's probably several things that you are, is to understand that a lot of people are struggling with various things. We don't have the ability to read their mind necessarily. You can be intuitive. However, if people were straight up and honest, there would be complete raw happiness. And I think once you realize, though, that people are going through these problems in life, I think you can understand that when people make off comments or they have an off attitude, don't take it personally. Because if you don't take it personally and you live your life and you find happiness, you'll have straight up honesty and be honest with people, because I think people would rather have the honest truth than the BS. And I think that also leads to the raw happiness, and you no longer have that yuck factor of assumption and denial. Keenan, what a great show tonight.
Thank you.
Bill, awesome as always.
Well, and I also want to thank, again, our listeners for providing the feedback again to us. And, again, every week we blog live on Facebook and Twitter. We really do encourage you to share your thoughts and feelings. And, who knows? You may be lucky enough we'll read it over the air.
You will, and by the way, I think Keenan has to go because he's got to eat some dinner. He's starving.
I think it's been like 10 minutes since he ate last, so yeah. He's probably hungry.
Part hamster, part man.
Yes,
I am. I'm hungry. I want something to eat. I really do.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. We have a great show for you next week. Perspectives with Ashley Burgess, your host. We'll be back in 3 shakes.